Smooth sailing for Superman in its second weekend at the domestic box office. James Gunn's DC reboot made $58.45 million, lifting its total to $236.2 million in 10 days. And it has more than enough wind in its sails to soar past Man of Steel. So, in that rivalry with Zack Snyder's Man of Steel, two questions remain. Is there enough gas in Superman's tank to surpass Man of Steel's box office, adjusted for ticket price inflation? And will some wobbly international box office hold Superman back from reaching the worldwide heights of Man of Steel? More on that later. First, breaking down Superman's domestic weekend. The new Superman again beat Warner Brothers' estimates, going from $57.25 million with the studio estimates to $58.45 million with the Monday actuals, thanks to a stronger than projected Sunday. Warner Brothers also underestimated Supes last weekend, and both times it was very clear that they were doing this on purpose. I appreciate the conservative approach, which leads to good vibes on Mondays when the actual grosses are tabulated and the numbers go up. Now, elsewhere, you'll see Superman's drop reported as 53%, but that's wrong. That's based on the mistake of listing the first weekend as $125 million, which incorrectly included preview grosses made prior to the weekend. As I've previously explained, Superman's first weekend was $102.5 million, so its $58.45 second weekend is down 43% from that. For further explanation of this all-too-common fallacy, please see my previous videos or hit me up in the comments. Now, a 43% drop might sound like a lot, but it's actually the smallest decline of any Superman movie this century. Justice League, Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, Man of Steel, and Superman Returns all fell harder in their second weekends. And here are some simple side-by-side charts to help compare Superman to similar movies, starting with Man of Steel. The row on top is the second weekend gross in millions of dollars. The second row is the second weekend drop-off. The third row is the total gross through that second weekend. And the last row is the final gross. Obviously, we don't have that yet for the new Superman. Anyway, Man of Steel had the worst drop-off of any Superman movie, but to be fair, sometimes such things are a matter of circumstance. Man of Steel's first weekend was inflated by Father's Day and Friday midnight screenings, and its second weekend had the 1-2 punch of Monsters University and World War Z debuting and taking up screen space, whereas the coast was completely clear for the new Superman. Still, the fact remains that the new Superman had the higher grossing weekend, 58 versus 41, and the higher total to date, 236 versus 210. However, Man of Steel maintains one advantage: attendance, as evidenced by adjusting for ticket price inflation. Its 41 million weekend translates to roughly 57, but its 210 million tally is the equivalent of over 292 million today. Now, among similar movies from this decade, Superman did not hold as well as The Batman, and one wonders if that will be a point of contention behind the scenes deep in the bowels of DC. Matt Reeves' The Batman eased 41% and had higher box office all around compared to James Gunn's Superman. Gunn himself even had a better second weekend with his previous movie, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, which dipped 39% to 62 million. However, Superman did hold better than Spider-Man: Homecoming, which does seem to be a spot-on comparison, given that it was also released on the second weekend of July, but back in 2017, and was a reboot following the flameout of its prior iteration, The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Like Man of Steel, Spidey has the attendance advantage when we adjust for ticket price inflation. It ended its run with 334 million, or over 421 million adjusted, which bodes well for Superman. From here on out, if Supes only legs out as well as Spidey, that would get it to over 370 million. While that means Superman would fall short of Man of Steel's 405 million adjusted gross, it would also be wrong to call that a failure. By the way, Superman's 43% drop was slightly better than Deadpool and Wolverine from last summer. Now, Superman is not the steamroller that Deadpool and Wolverine was, but in terms of trajectory, this also suggests a final gross north of 370 million. However, there is a variable here that those other movies did not face, that being another big comic book superhero movie opening in their third weekends. That's right, I'm talking about Fantastic Four, which will also take over Superman's premium screens. Now, competition is generally an overrated factor in box office performance, but it's most acute when the movies are so similar. I mean, it's kind of weird that of all the superhero movies that could be opening 2 weeks apart, it had to be Superman and Fantastic Four. I mean, these two movies give off the same retro, fun, colorful comic book vibes. You'd think DC and Marvel would at least go for more contrast here when releasing on top of each other. But that being said, on paper, Fantastic Four has more of an uphill battle. The property is less iconic than Superman, and it's opening in Superman's wake. But we will soon see how that all plays out. Superman is already the sixth biggest movie of 2025 at $236.2 million. It leapfrogged both Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning and Captain America: Brave New World. And it will overtake How to Train Your Dragon in a matter of days to claim fifth place. Among Superman movies, New Superman surpassed the total grosses of Superman Returns and Justice League to rank third for the franchise, behind, of course, Batman v Superman and Man of Steel. And now, brace yourselves here. The New Superman will become the top grossing Superman of all time domestically. It just needs less than $95 million more, which should be an easy hurdle, even if it takes a hit from Fantastic Four. However, if we adjust for ticket price inflation, we see that the New Superman won't actually be the highest flying Superman. That title belongs to the 1978 Christopher Reeve Superman, with the equivalent of around $650 million, followed by its 1981 sequel, Superman 2. New Superman currently ranks 7th, but it should crack the top 5 by the end of its run. Now, as well as it may be doing stateside, Superman's box office kryptonite is the rest of the world. Relatively speaking, of course. As of Sunday, Superman's international box office total was $173 million versus $236 domestic. But back in 2013, Man of Steel had over $188 million internationally at the same point, and it hadn't even yet played as widely as the New Superman. Now, the talking point is that Superman has never been big internationally, but how is that relevant when the previous Superman movies performed relatively better internationally? We're comparing Superman to Superman here, not Superman to Spidey or Batman. 42% of Superman's $409 million worldwide total comes from international. But international was 49% of Superman Returns and nearly 57% of Man of Steel's $670 million worldwide total. A sum that the New Superman is unlikely to match at this rate. But if it's any consolation, Superman just eclipsed the $393 million final worldwide gross of Black Adam, which had that unfortunate Henry Cavill cameo. Now back to the domestic box office for the weekend of July 18th to 20th, 2025. In second place, Jurassic World posted the smallest third weekend percentage drop of the franchise since the first Jurassic Park, down 41% to $23.7 million. However, with a $276.5 million running tally, it's also the lowest grossing Jurassic World through the third weekend. And it's the weakest Jurassic movie, period, when adjusted for ticket price inflation, behind even Jurassic Park 3. But even with the diminishing returns, there's still enough demand to keep these dinosaurs from going extinct. Now, in a photo finish that nobody cared about, Smurfs eked out third place over I Know What You Did Last Summer. Smurfs' $11.1 million was less than the tepid $12.8 million start of the last Smurfs movie from 2017. I Know What You Did Last Summer tried to jump on the Lego sequel/requel bandwagon that's worked so well for Scream and Final Destination, among others, but it failed with an opening that was far less than the 1997 original and its failed 1998 sequel, without even adjusting for ticket price inflation. Face it, this IP was a one-movie wonder, unlike Scream and Final Destination that had success over multiple sequels. And I Know What You Did Last Summer was further cheapened by a recent canceled streaming series of the same name. And without that name, it just looked like a generic slasher, hence the lack of interest. But Eddington fared even worse. The latest from Ari Aster debuted in 7th with just an estimated 3.6 million, despite the presence of the omnipresent Pedro Pascal. Meanwhile, F1 the movie had the best hold of the weekend, slowing just 24% to 9.9 million. With a running total of 153.9 million, F1 has edged out Talladega Nights: The Ballad of Ricky Bobby to become the highest-grossing live-action car racing picture ever. And among sports dramas, it now ranks 3rd, soon to be 2nd. Although for both of these charts, F1 would not rank so highly if we were to, say it with me now, adjust for ticket price inflation. Anyway, that's a wrap for now. Box office updates for Superman and more will continue, either in videos or shorts, so stay tuned to Box Office Revival. This has been Brandon Gray, creator of Box Office Mojo. Thank you for watching.